That's right. Welcome on in to the Afternoon Sports Drive on Triple Play Sports Radio. Jordan King in you here in the Triple Play Sports Radio studios and ready to roll here on a Tuesday, and it looks a little bit like Wisconsin out, so I'm feeling right at home. Welcome into Jordan Bishop into the studio as well.
Yeah. I'm not looking forward to driving around in the slush. At least it's not ice.
Not
ice.
ice.
I got new tires a couple weeks ago, so that should be good. Not driving around the flat ones I had for like 6 months. So
there you go. So and we're waiting for Jason Elmquist. He will be joining us via tie line at some point, but he's trying to escape Stillwater and get back up to Perry before it turns to ice or settles in a little bit and gets a little more slick out there. So he will be joining us on tie line. Maybe he'll shoot me a text or something when he's ready to roll, and I'll be able to pot him up. But it's as I said, we got our guy to talk prep sports.
This man has spent a lot of hard hours becoming a local expert on high school sports.
You know, a lot of people go to college for 7 years.
I know. They're called doctors.
And throughout that time, he has quite the beard to show for it.
Don't let him fool you. He's a child.
Now, joining the guys here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, it's the local high school sports reporter for Stillwater News Press.
You stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerve herder.
Here's Jordan Bearded Bishop.
that's me.
Jordan Bishop, man, I'll tell you what. You know what? The doctor of high school sports. That's what we'll call you. Since
Cool.
Since apparently you went to school for 7 years, according to that. Either that or it's a misleading bump. I'm not really sure. Who knows?
That's a bachelor's. just didn't quite cut it in some of the years, so just had to stay a little bit extra.
That'll happen. Same. I did the same thing. I stayed extra too, but that was just because I liked the other parts of college a little bit too much. So speaking of some of the prep sports, we'll start with Perry, I guess, since kind of the listening area, and obviously I am the voice of the Perry Maroons, and on Thursday I'll be heading down to Jones to cover Perry at Jones. And if you recall, Perry went down there a couple weeks ago and snuck out a win, kind of. Now the girls' team got blown out. Jones is a really good girls' team. Their program, number 3 in the state. And then Perry is obviously 8th in the state, and Jones, the only one that won in the first round in District 1 that was unranked in Perry's little cluster. So Perry gets an unranked team for the boys' side, and on the other half of the bracket, it's Chisholm and Prague, and Perry split with Chisholm, kind of got blown out going to Chisholm, but they would play that game on a neutral floor should Perry and Chisholm win. So that's kind of an interesting. They an 8-12 matchup I think would be a good one.
Yeah, and they win that, they'll be playing Saturday. And honestly, we talked about this before the show. Just a couple more wins. Get one here, and then you're automatically, no matter what happens at Saturday, obviously you want to win, but you're automatically in area. Both the regional champion and the runner-up both go, and then you got to get a win. 2 wins if you go to the regional consolation or area consolations, or just 1 if you go to the area championship, and you're in state. So it's honestly, if you look at the bracket, you're thinking, oh man, this is gonna be a long way, but you only got to win a couple of games and you're in. So
you start looking ahead, and it's a simple road to get to state. Yeah. I say simple, nothing simple when you're talking about wins and losses, but from the standpoint that like you said, if you can take care of a lot of problems if you just win twice this weekend. You make it a lot simpler. You win twice this weekend, and then you come up here to areas which are in Stillwater, close to home, and you I would assume play Millwood. Maybe you lose that game, but even if you upset them, you're straight to state. Yeah. If you don't, you're probably going to play a team like Chisholm or Christian Heritage or Prague in that second game with a chance to go to state, and those are all teams you're ranked ahead of. So if you take care of business against teams you're already ranked ahead of this weekend down in Jones, you can, I think, reasonably expect to be favored to go to state in some way when you come back here to Stillwater.
I know the game against Jones a couple weeks ago was closer than you might expect against a team that's 6-17 or whatever they are, but Perry is playing. They did really well in districts against Meeker. I think they won by like 30 points.
62-28.
Yeah, so 40 almost. So they're playing with a championship mindset. So they aren't letting anything, they aren't looking at the past. They are looking straight ahead and going full steam ahead.
It But yeah, and I thought it was interesting. I didn't see the final game of the regular season game of the year for Perry, but they lost it. And
The Blackwell.
yeah, to me, I saw them play Blackwell earlier in the year. They blew Blackwell out of the water, 52-15 at home. So to me, I didn't watch it, so I can't say for sure. But I would assume that maybe they rested some guys getting ready for the playoffs or something like that, or maybe they weren't focused. I'm not really sure what the case was. But that was a Blackwell team that they were head and shoulders better than. So I'm not super concerned about how it turned out down in Jones last time, being a close game. But this is a team that can win close games, so I'm not worried about that either. You saw them beat Frontier a couple times in buzzer beater situations. You saw them take a couple losses in close games, and I think that all of that helps you. And if you let Perry get up and down the court, you're going to lose the game. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
The games they've lost, they've been kind of held in check offensively. You talk about Hennessy. The other one that comes to mind was I believe it was Holland Hall up in 4A.
Yeah, that was in the E tournament up in the Elite Championship.
Yeah, and that was like a 32-29 score.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you hold these guys down and you play good defense against them, you're going to have every chance in the world. The thing is, it's really hard to do because they have about 5 guys that can score in bunches. You talk about Braxton Dale. He can get 3 balls up. Jace Goldsberry is a danger from anywhere on the right side of half court, And then you obviously talk about the 2 big towers they got down low. Mason Drake is a great all-around player. Talk about him. He is going to fill about 5 different stat categories throughout a game, and does all of them really well as well. So, and then Bryce Allen is kind of the senior leader of the group, and just one of the guys that gets a ton of offensive boards. I think when I called that loss to Hennessy, I think he had 11 offensive boards in that game, and really should have had about a 20-20 performance. I think he ended up with 20-plus rebounds and just 18 points. He almost had a 20-20 night, which is pretty special for a high school kid. So
definitely.
You talk about that team, they're deep and probably going to have some success here in the playoffs. At least I hope so.
And if you're Coach Brandon Height, it couldn't have worked out better for you, looking at this slate. I mean, you said wins and losses. You don't want to ever guarantee anything, but you got a bit of an easy road. I mean, Millwood and area here in Stillwater is probably going to be your toughest test.
Well, like I said, you look at some of the other ones, and it does not shake out like this. In there, so Perry is 8th in the poll, or the rankings. Here are the other ones that it goes: Millwood 2, Chisholm 12, Christian Heritage 17, Prague 19, and the other 3 teams are unranked. So I think you're, again, you don't want to chalk anything up to wins, but you're the only top 10 team other than Millwood.
Yeah.
And not every district has the luxury, or area has the luxury of saying that. So I think you're absolutely right. Anytime you go into area and you're the second-ranked team, you should expect to make it to state. And I think Perry probably does, because I think this is a team that's confident in their own abilities, and they should be. They've played some good teams, one of them being Frontier, and I guess let's move over to Frontier and talk about that. They're another in the
they're in the area tournament.
Yeah.
And A and B are in area this week. In case you don't know, it goes districts, regionals, area, and then state. So area is the penultimate step. So we're just talking about Perry. They are in regionals this week, but Class A is an area. And the Frontier boys, they escaped. They're in Class A area 2. They escaped last week, and so did the Frontier girls. But we'll start with the boys. Number 3 in Class A, Coach Weckstein's team. And let me pull up the score here. Yeah, it was a game against Davenport. It's saved by free throws. Dante Lightfoot hit a couple free throws late. They won, I think, by 2 points. And so they're going to the area championship against, I believe it is Garber, number 7, who is 23-3. So they have a better record than the Mustangs do, but they are lower ranking. So it's the same thing as we're talking about Perry. Go to the area championship, win, you're in. So it's going to be Friday night in Stroud. Frontier Garber. Frontier wins. They have their second straight second straight trip to state, because they didn't go the year before, I don't think. Second straight. Obviously, defending Class A runner-up. This team is a team that I thought would have an off year. I mean, you never want to expect that under Coach Weckstein. He's been there since the school opened in 1990. But it's a team that has lost a couple of pieces, obviously. Big one you think of last year was Nolan Childs. and they pretty much haven't missed a beat. I mean, obviously they're not undefeated like they were last year. They're not number one in the state, but Dante Lightfoot is probably a contender for our area player of the year. Connor Norman is doing really well. He's had a couple of 30-point games. Xavier Burgess has his moments. I mean, this is a team that has some horses, and they have the know-how to win these close games. So I think they might, if they do to win Friday, maybe make some noise down there at the big house. So
yeah, and again, part of the reason I think you see Frontier ranked a little bit higher, considering their record, they go, this is a team not afraid to kind of wrestle punch above their weight, right? They played 7 games against 3A teams and 8 games against 2A teams, so they have winning records against both of those. So 4-3 against 3A, of course, 2 of those losses coming to Perry, and then against 2A competition, 7-1. So you look at that; that's probably the reason that they end up having that ranking, despite the 7 losses, is because they want to challenge themselves outside of their class.
Yeah. And then on the girls' side, Coach Taha is her first year over from Elgin, where she took the Owls down there up to state tournament 4A last year. Come up here and she hasn't missed a beat. This is the team that they went to the state tournament last year, lost in the state championship ceiling. He's won like 4 in a row. And she preached defense. They are a great defensive team. Their starting 5 has been the starting 5, it seems like, the past 4 years. Same ones. And they had their closest game in this last game out in the regional championship. I think it was the closest one they had since their only loss, which was to 6A number 10 Edmond North in the Mustang tournament. So it's a team that isn't afraid to punch above its weight either, and only 1 loss in the year, and they're going to be playing Garber as well down there Friday night at 6:30. And you don't ever want to say this, but I can see no way that they don't make the state tournament. I think this is a team that has a chance of returning to the title game and maybe taking that gold ball away from the ceiling.
Yeah, well, and you talk about that. They also beat Midwest City up in 6A too, so not a losing record up against the big dogs, as you might say. So good for them. What are some other Stillwater News Press area teams that are looking to compete and contend here for potentially getting to the state tournament?
Yeah, well, also in the triple play area in Class A, both Glencoe teams made it. The boys, 26-1 under Coach Lazenby. This has been I've seen them play a handful of times, and they're really good. This is a team that their chemistry is through the roof. Their only loss is, I honestly would like to see like an oral history of this night, that they lost to Langston Hughes, who's probably one of the worst teams in the state. They went there the day before Christmas break, played on a court that's 3/4 the size of a usual court apparently, and then all the stands are on one side of the court. So it was a very weird night, and they shot, I think, like 18% that night, the worst Coach Lazenby's ever had. So that's their only loss. And
you're talking about, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
You're talking about a Langston Hughes team that they won a couple weeks later and beat 93-58. So There you go.
So it's a team that I see no flaws in right now, and I know Doug can say the same thing in boys on the A side. Fort Cobb Roxton's won 4 in a row, and Frontier lost to them last year. But I see Glencoe and Coach has won 3 in the past, I think, 6 years. So I could see them giving a fight and maybe coming home with a gold ball. And on the girls' side, Coach Chad Zotai moved over from Pawnee. This is his first year there, and they're a team that I see with the Frontier boys. I mean, they have the know-how to get to state. It's just they have some weaknesses. They lost the regional championship to a very good team by a lot, but I think that they have a chance of getting out of that area consolation bracket. But the Glencoe boys and the Frontier girls have the best shots in the small schools in the area right now to make a run at the state championship. And then also, let's not forget the Ripley girls under Coach Doug Scott, who's also coaches the boys. They've made a really, some people will say, a surprising run. They're in the area tournament as well, area championship, I believe. And they're a team that Carly Sauer is really good. For Sky Chili is really good for them. And Coach Scott has been there for probably 20 years, so he knows what to do. He's been there before on the boys' side. I think this is a team that he plays good defense. They're a really gritty team, And I think that, he's got as good a shot as anybody. But the thing is, though, they're even playing on that same bracket that the Frontier girls are in. So they got to hope to get maybe that second team in there.
I want to ask you this. We talked a little bit about some of the rankings and why some teams have better records than others headed towards the postseason. If you were a coach, you've watched how this shakes out sometimes over the last 5 years or so. You've seen kind of how the preps scene is shaken out. Where do you balance playing within your class to get some confidence, even if you're gonna dominate your class, and then balancing that with wanting to play 4A, 5A, 6A schools outside your class, kind of play up and test yourself against that, knowing that your record's probably not going to look quite as good at the end of the year. Where would you, if you were a coach, kind of balance that on your schedule, where playing 6A teams versus playing all 2A or all 3A teams in that way?
I mean, this is I would say that you play some of the area ones around you, but then you go out and play a big one. I mean, we've seen Glencoe a few years ago. They went to the Tournament of Champions in Tulsa, which is best of the best. Pawnee's been there before, obviously, with Keaton when Keaton Page was there. And that's what Brett Taha wanted to do when she came up here. She had the Frontier girls usually play with the boys up in Morrison, the Mike Kerr Classic. She decided instead that she'd have her JV play there because the thing is, last year the girls had, I think, 7 players in the team. That's what was so great about their run was they went to state champion with 7 players.
Yeah.
But now they have all these freshmen, and the thing is, all your starters are seniors, so you're gonna be looking for what to do next. So she had her junior varsity play at the Morrison tournament and took her seniors and went and played at the Mustang tournament and against 6A teams. And you do have to balance. You have to be honest with yourself. And Coach Wickstein's not going to shy away. He probably could have a 26-1 record if he would have played the teams he's supposed to play, but he went out and wanted to play Perry. He wanted to play, these bigger schools and Pawnees. And you have to do things to test your teams because the thing is, when you do get to the playoffs, it's not easy. You can't just go out and beat your I'm trying to think of a terrible team. I don't know, your Langston Hughes, I guess, and just beat up on them for 20 games and then say, all right, that's our district. You have to go out and play these other teams because the rankings don't really, they matter in seedings, but right now they don't really matter.
Well, and you got to, right, because there's this balance of you want to get your team some confidence and you want to get your team some some wins, obviously, and you want to try to help your ranking as best you can, but you also want to balance that with making sure they don't have unrealistic expectations. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing, and how coaches decide to balance that. And I don't know which is more successful, but I like the idea of going and trying to test yourself out of class because, again, Perry didn't necessarily always go up. But when they went and played the Class A teams and the 2A teams, they were playing teams like Frontier and teams like that. So when they were out, they were playing the best of the lower tiers. So that's kind of interesting, and we'll see, obviously, for all these area teams. It's really exciting coming up here in the next couple of weeks to see where they might end up, and hopefully a lot of them down there at the Big House.
Yeah. We mentioned all the small schools in area. We also have Morrison boys are going to be hosting their regionals this Thursday against Dale, and then both Pawnee teams are on the road for regionals. They both won districts. Let's see here, Perkins. They are the girls are going to be going to Kingfisher, I believe. Both teams are going, but the girls are in the winners bracket. And ranked number 9 in 4A, Lady Demons. Coach Burnett, he's been there. He's a Hall of Fame coach for a reason. They have a good shot making it to state. I think it's Muldrow's to lose, though, in 4A this year. But if you get this team to state, that's a good win for Coach Burnett.
So there you go. Good information there on the upcoming slate here. And we'll obviously update you upcoming next Tuesday, probably when we have Jordan back in, and kind of give you an update on how some of these teams doing.
They made it to state.
Probably some of them, yeah. Updating them and talking about the future state, or for Perry's sake, hopefully.
Regional champs in the area.
Future area position. So we'll take our first time out, come back, maybe talk a little softball on the other side. This is the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
We cowboy up every day. We are the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.